She went on Steve O's podcast recently and called her fucking ungrateful fans.
Whoa.
And called wrestling matches fake fights.
Ronda's a professional mixed martial arts champion. She's a champion and one of the greatest female champions of all time.
I didn't like seeing her face look like that.
She shouldn't have fought that woman.
I didn't like seeing it. What I'm saying though is I didn't feel any of that. I didn't feel any of like, oh, it's a competition and she trains.
Right.
No, what I saw is a bruised and battered woman. That's what I saw.
Well,
and that's probably my problem. Like,
okay, so you must be talking about the Holly Holm fight, because that's when the one she was bruised and battered. That's when she got head kicked and she was bloody and her face was a mess. The Amanda Nunes fights were just 48 seconds of knuckles in the face. That was a quick fight. She just got the fuck beat out of her in that fight. Unless
it didn't
you're
look like
100% all in with your training and your learning and your development, and you're making sure that you've got the right training partners and the right coaching and the right staff and nutrition and all these different things. If you have any part of that missing, then the people coming up who have all those bases covered, they're going to surpass you because they're talented too, and that's what happened with her.
She treated people at the UFC, the stories I heard from people at the UFC were indicative of her character. What I said was, if you guys didn't hear it, is the people when I was in the UFC in 2018 who would put the mic on you, the audio people, the camera people, the people plugging the cable in to make sure the lights are on it, the people the producers who help do stuff. Every time Ronda Rousey's name came up, she was in the WWE at the time. I remember she had just done some big pay-per-view. I forget which one, SummerSlam or something. And somebody mentioned her, and it was like, the guy putting the mic on my shirt was like, that F&B. Blah, 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 blah. And it went around the room like, oh, God. Everybody had a horror story about Ronda Rousey being impossible to them. You know, like I'd mic her up. Just like we're all in her way. That we're not helping her hype a fight that she's getting paid millions of dollars for.
You know, it was really like disappointing just to see how happily everybody had turned on me, and how people like Joe Rogan, who were like crying in the ring out of the honor of being able to call my fights, had like, you know, people I considered friends in the media so quickly, you know, turned on me and forced me to separate other people's perception of me from my own perception of myself, which I first lost. I got tapped in the beginning, and I'd fallen down the stairs a week or so before that, knocked myself out falling down the stairs at my house, and then didn't say anything. I went into the fight anyway, had a horrible weight cut, had the wrong mouth guard which didn't have the protection on the back of the bottom teeth. I was like completely disabled, and when I tried to fight again, and I was like, okay, I'll give myself a break and I'll make sure the mouth guard's perfect. This time I'm not gonna knock myself out right before the fight and all those things. And then the same thing, I just got tapped and I was out. So I just didn't have the hardware to continue fighting. And neurologically, it wasn't capable of continuing to fight at that level. Right before the Holm fight, I slipped down some fucking stairs in my socks, tore out my knee, knocked myself out on the stairs 2 weeks before the fight. I'm the greatest fighter that has ever lived, but when it got to a point where I'd just taken so much neurological damage that I couldn't take it anymore.
I said nothing and don't say anything about her in octagon performance. Her as a fighter. And a lot of people in the comment section underneath the articles about what I said talk about all the sport moved past her and da-da-da, and she was overrated. I didn't talk at all about her performance in the octagon. She was a champion. She was the most dominant 155-pounder of her era. And she finished all the opposition. She beat who was in front of her and beat them in dominant fashion until Holly Holm. So I don't in any way denigrate her accomplishments in the octagon. I thought she was an excellent fighter, and you know, the Mount Rushmore of women's MMA, she's on it. I don't put her number one, but she's there.
Things weren't perfect, they never are. And I think the one thing that was different was it was my third title fight in 9 months, and I don't think anyone's ever even attempted that before. And
that's a lot.
Yeah, but I don't make any excuses or anything like that. I mean, I've fought in worse conditions, but I think the one thing that was different, I just kind of felt tired. But other than that, I mean, I'd been more tired, I guess. Honestly, like my thought, I was like in the medical room, and I was like down in the corner. I was sitting in the corner, and I was like, what am I anymore if I'm not this? And I was literally sitting there and like thinking about killing myself, and that exact second, I'm like, I'm nothing. I'm like, what do I do anymore? And no one gives a shit
about me anymore without this. And to be honest, I looked up and I saw my man, Travis, was standing there, and I was looking up at him. And
is Ronda Rousey overrated as a fighter?
Yes, for sure. UFC make this happen, They like put her in places she don't know at, But I know I can beat Ronda Rousey since I saw her first fight.
Wow.
all the best things come from the worst things. Every worst thing that happened in my life, it resulted in the absolute worst things. It resulted in the absolute best things. And I'm trying to think, like, what is the reason of all this? And I'm thinking, like, what my actual purpose is, and maybe just winning all the time isn't what's best for everybody. And I felt like maybe my role is, everyone has their moment of picking themselves off the floor, and I'd gone through several of mine, but no one had actually seen me go through it. And maybe I just had to be that example of picking myself off the floor for everyone, and maybe that's what I'm meant for. And I really do believe I'm still undefeated, because being defeated is a choice. Everybody has losses in their life, but I choose to always be undefeated.
So vivid in my head that she immediately went from bully, strong, like I run this courtyard, to he hit me. And I was like,
little bitch.
I was like, what just happened?
You ever want to look her up?
Yeah, I know. Just
See what the fuck she's done to her disaster of a life.
Ronda Rousey has been very successful. She was able to pick up WWE very, very well. And so for her to say, like, the fake word, I mean, I think she's just trying to use a trigger word to get a rise out of people. And I imagine it definitely got a rise, and it got a lot of attention through Twitter, through, all the news factors. Oh, she's calling it fake, blah, blah, blah. What's going to happen? We need to have someone come from WWE to take her out. Like, these are heel 101 moves. Yeah. In my
Adam Barucha told me a story about she came in and they were interviewing her, pre-fight, video, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or whatever. They used to do those a lot more frequently in the UFC. And she sat down and went, this is the worst part of my day. I hate dealing with you people. Everybody that had to deal with her in production, she could be nice to Dana White, I'm sure she could be nice to Joe Rogan, I'm sure she could be nice to all the people who had some authority, matchmakers. The people that make a shoot work, the people in the black shirts that go around doing their job, she was horrible to them. When I said that on SiriusXM, I'm not going to name names, I got messages from people in her orbit who went, Jimmy, you nailed it. I can't say this publicly, I'm glad you did. So what bothers me, she did an interview with Dana Jacobson, who's a great friend of mine, I love Dana to death, for her book tour, and it's freaking wah. It is grievance after grievance after grievance. You made millions of dollars and became an icon.
Well, it's not surprising, and I can tell you the reason why nobody else is speaking out is because they know that there will be negative repercussions if they say anything about the company that the company doesn't like, and so. Everybody's being held hostage by their careers, but since I don't plan on going back there unless they make some very major changes, I, feel free to say whatever I want to say, which, I've always felt that way. I don't really, I don't really care if they have me back or not. I can wrestle wherever I want to wrestle, and the truth should be told.
We saw pre-fight how she treated people. We saw on The Ultimate Fighter her behavior. We saw all this stuff. But there wasn't the other side of it of, you know what? I got to eat my humble pie. Amanda Nunes that night was the better fighter. She's a legend and had a great career. Thanks a lot.